Hey, how you doing, Jake? What's happening?
Pretty good. Nothing much. Just we've been sitting on this for a while. I don't even know how to say it. Kyra or Kira? Uh,
I'm going with Kyra.
okay, Kyra it is. Um, so yeah, this is something that I had a couple of copies of in my travels, and then I think you picked up the edition that put out all the extant material. But you have
Yeah, I got the whole thing off of eBay.
right,
So
but you're what am I looking at? You got the floppies there, and then you have the bound
I
edition.
got I've got five floppies,
Okay.
and then they put out about 3 years later. This collects issues 6, 7, and 8.
Right, and
The backstory for this is that they just couldn't get themselves together to put those individual issues out, and so they ended up just getting to a point where they ended up collecting them into sort of a trade. But it does not have any old stuff, so it really is it's new material. So they got to 8 issues, and they start just so we have 1985, and I believe this ends on 1988. So this ends in 1988. So they spent 3 years working on this.
right, okay. So that also suggests that maybe they're day job guys. We're just going to be flip doing the flip through and looking at it from the outside and just our candid comments. It seems like the driving force is this Robin Ator, although there was some other people involved, I guess maybe on the publishing side.
Yes.
It doesn't say whether, there's a letterer or anything, but
He actually had a co-creator.
okay.
He had a co-author, Larry R. Heller. Yeah, Rob. I just went on to Google and Googled Robin Ator comics, and he's from Portland, Oregon. He has a BA in printmaking, an MFA in painting. He's done cartooning. He did comics for Goodies, Jabberwocky Graphics, Splat, Mad Dog Publishing, The Terminator for Now Comics, which I do believe was the first licensing of the Terminator franchise. Don't quote me on that. And then in the 80s, he was author of Kyra Comics with Robin R. Heller, starring a muscular female heroine, printed by Elsewhere Publishing. And Ator has also been active in puppets, float making for the parades, ventriloquists, figure making, commercial artist, and here we get to the big one, character designer, and is recognized for designing the M&M characters for Leica Studios.
So yeah, so a commercial artist by trade who did some comics. Is that fair to say?
I would agree with you, my friend.
Right. So, that's like us. We come in and out of comics when we have the time and the ability. I'm a teacher, but I've been an artist my whole working graphic artist, commercial artist my whole life. And comics are, it's funny in New York City. There's this high school called the High School of Art and Design. It's a specialized school where you have to audition in, and they have a cartooning program, which is their most popular program. And this is just a regular public school. They consider it CTE, which means commercial and trade education. And
Hmm.
no, I'm sorry, career and technical education. So, it's funny that, comic book making is put in the same category as like plumbing and electrical and auto mechanics, right? Um,
God bless. That's why it's always good to be around.
right, and it's just funny because that comes with like different revenue streams and different requirements and stuff. But I am going to be inquiring whether art and design wants any more cartooning teachers or comic book teachers because I'm now in touch with them. I'm part of the middle school network that they're putting together to give like special networking opportunities to some middle schools. So. Um,
Cool, cool.
yeah, so let's jump in. The
Yeah.
reason why we're doing Kyra is because it's a strong female, obviously. This cover is great. This cover, it's a great pose. Um, I'm going to nitpick a little. I think the shading on here makes it a little unclear as to what's going on. You have to really think about it. Maybe, if it would have been a little bit more just kind of parallel hatching like this, it would have been a little clearer, but it's a little scratchy. And contour shading, it's interesting because it goes around the form. But in this case, I don't think they did a great enough job of mimicking what it was supposed to be. They could have been better shaping. Other than that, pretty nice. It's really interesting what he does with these very loose halftone dots, right? You notice that? These are big dots
Mm,
here.
mm,
So he's got this huge
mm.
screen up here where there's like a fade that goes from darker to lighter. And then he printed that just red and yellow to try to make this some kind of melon red combination. I don't know if it's what they envisioned. But they also have these blotches here, right? On mine, I have this little screw up over here and over here. And I don't know if you have this,
Yeah, I got the same thing. I have the same thing. Yeah, you're noting here
right.
and here.
So, usually, I mean, sometimes when they do reprints, they fix that kind of stuff up. Sometimes they just let it go. But, here it is, Kyra #1, Elsewhere Productions, and premiere issue, 2 complete stories. I really like everything else. Um, and let's,
Well, the big thing I just want to jump in and
yeah.
say right out of the gate, because I think he does himself such justice, is this Robin Ator understands human anatomy down to facial structure, anatomical structure. He's even twisted and playing on a comic book level the anatomy where it doesn't look so much like a broken back yet, but hands and feet. So that was one of the actual things that kind of helped me pull the trigger in buying all of these, was other than catching up with you on black and white independence and a strong female muscular character. I am in love with his treatment of anatomy, especially the female in comic
Well,
books. So that's one of the
so
things I'll be
far
making
anyway. I mean,
comments
yeah,
on.
your
Yeah,
cover has to
yeah.
be an undeniable piece. And this is the kind of stuff that influences us. We're in the middle of making our Turbo Pit Fighter comic with a strong female lead. We're making a long-term graphic novel broken up into 6 floppy comics, and so we're always on the lookout for strong female muscular characters. And here's a rare example. And she's not that muscular. She's got muscles popping, but she's also kind of feminine too. So it's always striking a balance. And we can talk about that. But let's dive in.
Hell yeah.
Let's see. We have an inside front cover where there's a little bit of explanation. It says male heroes in comics have always been muscular, but not so their female counterparts. Surely the strong, active heroine saving the world from imminent destruction needs something more than a fashion model physique, especially if they have no superpowers like most of the guys in the skin suits do. So we cite the emerging acceptance of female bodybuilders as a parallel development in modern culture. These well-muscled
Dang.
women have lost much of their freak status and are currently thought of as healthy and attractive. Some may even call them trendy. And you notice that when they go to italics, they lose their top, their
Yeah,
side.
everything went
So
weird.
that this is like some kind of weird typesetting or some kind of weird word processing paste up here.
Yeah,
This is well and good, but
yeah.
Kyra's roots predate even the women's movement of the 60s, for Kyra is the daughter of Kageena, whose adventures first appeared in the late 50s. Kageena was no comic book jungle girl. She flexed her way through a short 4-page folder, Adventures, sold by an outfit called Peerless Sales. So this is
Yeah.
interesting.
So then it does jump all the way. That continues into the back cover, and they give you two nice little
Right.
things. I actually looked it up, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're really
So
cool.
this was only a 4-page folder.
It,
And
yeah, I guess it was like a promo kind of thing. Somebody loved comics and paid somebody to do it for, I guess, promotions is what they're
so
saying,
right,
and then
and
they
they're
included it.
talking about here, and here they're publishing, I guess, 2 of the 4 pages of
Yeah.
Kageena, and so it's really done well, and it inspired this whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be a jungle comic, another Jungle Girl comic, but I don't know why this guy has a trench coat here and this guy's brass knuckles. You don't see that in the jungle, so maybe these are modern people coming to
Well,
invade. Well,
just to kind of jump around a little bit here, this backstory is actually their first story. So the backup story, it says that the following is a short and an earlier appearance of the golden maned lass from her formative days as an obscure underground release. So it must have showed up somewhere else.
okay.
And it does have a very different feeling to it. Obviously, we got larger panels. And I'm bringing this up is because, I really feel this whole series feels like somebody's sketchbook. Like it's not completed in I think all the little bells and whistles somebody would want as a comic book, Jake,
Uh-huh.
but I think they had enough going, and as we've kind of agreed upon, um, they had real jobs, lives going on outside, and when they could get that time and money, they were playing comic books.
Yeah, I'm looking at this Kageena that inspired this whole thing, and they explain in the inside back cover, just to skip all the way back there, that it was created by a guy named Eugene Bilbrew, who usually signed his work ENEG. Her cartoon Jungle Brawls were mostly sold through the mail. What you
Hmm.
see in these samples, Peerless Sales was a fetish publisher. Most of their output dealt with girls
Oh.
fighting men and each other with a little leather and bondage thrown in for spice. But by today's standards, it's actually quite tame. As the story has developed, the story has developed, quote, elsewhere. Kageena willingly produced a daughter as a
Hmm.
result of her unwilling involvement in a certain late Cuban American plot. It was during this time Kageena met a man who later sought her out in her own Asian domain. Their daughter Kyra later emulated her legendary mother. Okay, so this is, I guess, an imagined daughter of Kageena, which might have been mentioned or alluded to in these 50s fetish uh, uh,
Man.
art panels that art pages that were sold through the mail. I did notice. I'm gonna show close up here. You see Kageena here. You do see her pretty naked rump there, only covered by a little tattered cloth. So that's pretty fetishy for those days. This is not really like that explicit or anything, but
And we're talking the
yeah, it's very
50s.
teasy. And here, here you can see her butt, and then she kicks ass. So, it's that combination of, female liberation, right, with strong females like kicking ass, and also gawking at them at the same time, right? So, I guess, yeah, that falls
Yeah.
under fetish. So that's really interesting. Also, I have to point out that they thank in the lower panel here. They thank Tony Raiola for all his help getting the book out. Tony Duffy for his help with taking the fine photo of the bodybuilder model Lori Walkup that appears on the back cover, and that's right here. Right, there's a little Kyra cosplay. But it also says further information about Kageena or Kyra's previous adventures are available from the publisher in a catalog of similar stories that you could get by sending $1 to Larry Heller of Kyra Comic in Norwalk, California. So these are guys that are just, just doing stuff out of their house, it seems, just trying to keep the spirit of these little, fetish things alive. Except in the 80s, you come and there's more of a healthy indie comic scene, and they're able to put out some sequential. And we're
Yep.
looking at it right here.
Yep.
Jungle talking. So I guess there's our setup. That's the best we can do, piecing together. But let's jump in. I see this
Right.
first page. It's got some interesting black and white notes and some hatching stuff here. We see a light rain, and Kyra is
Hmm.
listening to like these sounds of screaming off in the distance. Um, I think some of these lettering, I think this might be an artist doing his own lettering. It's not the most pro lettering I've ever
Yes,
seen, but it's
I
perfectly serviceable.
mhm.
I don't know if my lettering is any good, but we got to take what we can get. If you don't have the money for a professional separate letterer, you got to do it your own. So this is a little DIY, and I can't complain about the display type here, a rustle of feathers, it's called. Um, I really appreciate typography. I talk about it a lot in our travels. Anything else about this page?
Now, the only thing to say is that there, just a little weirdness here in the other half of her leg. Obviously, there's some sort of jumping movement, and this is something I'm going to be uh, commenting on is that kind of quick gestural, and then filling it in, and as you noted, even the lettering. So, like I said, it's this kind of like sketchbook kind of feel
Yeah,
to
I
it.
mean, for
Um,
calling out I think it's really prescient of them to say that well-muscled women, shouldn't be considered as freaks. They're healthy and attractive. That's really a big thing today on Instagram and TikTok and all that kind of stuff, where
yeah.
workout girls,
Oh,
they
yeah.
have huge followings, and they're not, yeah,
CrossFit.
the CrossFit. Well, sometimes they're CrossFit. Sometimes they're not afraid to put on some mass and be really, popping muscles and stuff. We could talk about we could talk about, like, the I don't know if these fetishes, but these sites like DeviantArt and stuff, and Tumblr, that have these channels, or they have these like collections of really well muscled women, and some of it
Hmm.
is like sexy and gawking, but some of it is like, really just healthy, and really just, doing with women what we've done with men for a long time, is just kind of like idealize, bodies.
Yeah.
Here's a pretty good example of that. This, for me, this goes a little far on both the mass and the definition. But when we have our turbo, version of it, we do have an aesthetic that we're going for, and it's very interesting, like, to browse them and click on the ones that you think is the right balance of muscles and femininity, to
Yeah.
make your way. So I'm not really seeing, like, the pop and rip in muscles so much. I guess this was considered, muscly women at the time. Not too much mass, not too much definition. Really huge boobs, and and also this kind of like trendy '80s hair, right? That she picked
Hmm.
up too. Let's proceed. Um, This is nice. This one panel, the combination of hatching and shadow. Um, the forest is accustomed to the quick yip as the leopard strikes, but not to this abandoned yowl of agony. No cautious or timid traveler would interfere. Kyra, new mistress of this land, is neither. So she's supposed to be this is supposed to be the hook, is that there's this yell. You don't really get the sense, that, I mean, you talk about this awkward position. Maybe she's like jumping across something which you can't see. Is this like a river here? Maybe she's fording a river, stream right here, right?
That's good. That's good. Not indicated. I mean, you got to figure that out on your
Right. So
own.
this
But
is when an artist is just drawing from memory and imagination, right? There's no reference here, and
yeah,
so sometimes it's not the most photo referenced, but
yeah, because you're right. Because if there's just down in here, there's some like rings for the
right.
water. When what the droplets splash, but it's not up here. If it was up here, that would be a better
Right.
indication
Yeah.
um, for that. But good call. Good call.
Indication.
That does
And
solve
then,
that
and yeah, and
mystery.
these light lines cutting through the black. This is kind of Sin
Yeah.
City-ish, way before Sin City, right? Or maybe right around the time.
Well, it's a razor
Yeah.
blade. Once he put those
Um,
blacks down, he'll take a razor blade and just kind of scratch it, scumble it across, so he just gets that nice little
right, right,
jagged
or
jagged
Dragon
line for a white.
Exacto, right. So you're hearing from the scratch
Yep.
board master, folks. So this is a little inside stuff, and I know we're going slow, but you know, I
That's all
also
right.
don't see the visual matching up. Like you're reading this and you find, you know, you're hearing about this scream of agony coming from the distance. You don't really get the body language here or here, you know.
Right, right. And but once again, I want to just point to is this very gestural movement that he's always popping Kyra around. I think once again, it's all linear, it's all handwritten and drawn out, and then he's spotting blacks, which I think he does a really excellent job for putting a
Yeah,
black and white book
agreed.
together, where it's just line and black and some hatching to bring them together. So I really, that was the second reason for me pulling the trigger and purchasing this and being very pleased
Yeah,
with it.
I
So,
like that. He, you know, he's not skimping on the foliage, the fawn, you know, the plants and the backgrounds. You know, it's always great to be practiced in that. I think artists should all work on that. I need to work on that a little bit more. Always, you know, be generous with your plants and you know, different species. Just go in the backyard and look at all the different shapes and then just draw because it's great to
right.
fill in space and add value. It doesn't take that long. You know, Tim Vigil is the master of that, but all, you know, all these, you know, classic, you know, guys, you know, adding that in. I mean, look how it saves the day on this panel. And I like this panel, by the way, this one right here. Um,
Oh,
but, you
I
know,
do
just
too.
having this branch and, you know, these leaves and some leaves cutting in, some branches cutting in, you know, really, it really just, you know, makes better comics. Now, this I don't like if you look very, very closely, right? Because I have a no scribble rule ever. And so, you know, here he's got a line here that just kind of, when he was inking it, he just kind of, yeah,
There,
got, to me, that
yeah,
gets a
you're there
little.
today. You have a term for that. What you
Well, I
use
have a
it?
big sign in my classroom that no scribble scrabble and has a big cross out and you
Scribble.
know it says, you know, points taken away, which
Oh,
which I may or may not actually go through with, but I want them to
right,
learn,
right,
you
right,
know,
right. It's
just
just
separate
a.
the lines. It doesn't take that much longer and it makes a difference, you know. And you know, I mean,
I
you know,
agree.
there are some really good artists that get away with it, like Dr. Seuss, you know, in the pen and ink style. Um, you know, because it's intentional. It's not just like
It's a part of his
right. I
style.
mean, if you're like I was going to separate all these lines, but I'm purposely not doing it, fine, great, you know. But but otherwise, I mean, I also see it here too. You know, it just suggests, and I'll show real close. It just suggests to me that they're in an incredible rush for some reason, which might have been the case.
I I still think this is a third or fourth level of importancy in their lives. Like I said, real jobs. Maybe a family. Friends. Because they're probably young guys,
At this
right?
point, yeah, I mean,
So they've got a lot going on. So they're making every Sunday they get together and they work on
right. They
Kyra.
didn't know that more than 30 years later, there would be people criticizing every little mark that they made on the page,
Too.
right? But, you know, but
Which let me just jump in. The reason we're doing it is because you and I are very nerdy about making comics. We're probably more nerdy about making the comics than trying to become comic book publishers or well recognized artists, because if that was more important, we'd probably be out on that ship. But both of us are art teachers, and
right.
we just really geek out about this stuff. So, Robin, if you end up checking this out and you get to this point, please understand that we have a huge amount of respect for what you put into this, and we're only nitpicking to reflect upon ourselves in
Yeah.
making
Right.
Turbo.
I mean,
So,
the bottom line is, you know, this is something that got put out. And so, you know, when you're putting something out, you know, it's always great to put as much as you can into it at the time. You never know what's going to happen to it later, you know, maybe even after you're gone, you know, and people are looking at this kind of stuff. And
yeah,
so, you know, that's it. But, you know, everybody's human. And you know, if you're a young artist, you know, you're growing into your, you know, your best self. So here we come across this kind of ritual that's happening. And there are some guys in like regular civilian, civilization clothing, whatever you would want to call it. They're pulling this old guy down onto the slab. It looks like he's already like hurt in his chest or something. This kind of like priest or hooded lady or figure in the back, and it says most of the circle are natives. Held between them is another, aged and thin, his chest ripped and burnt. Kyra's eyes narrow. The tallest growls a question she can't hear. The question is answered succinctly. The tall woman in black and blue sets her jaw and selects a live coal from a hissing grate. Right? So here she's got this, yeah, they're gonna torture the guy, and she holds it poised and glowing for a long moment over the man and drops it on his
Mm.
already torn wounds. And yeah, so here
Ooh.
this is an interesting page composition. I wonder if they were looking at some master kung fu or something,
Oh, good
here
call.
you got like some symmetrical panels, and then in the middle this tall thin panel where she's taking this coal out of a cauldron, and that kind of frames the page. And then down here at the bottom, you see this cool shape, and this is just kind of a very interesting pan down. Um, and I like that Kyra is here in shadow, so you have some good dramatic effect there.
Yeah.
They don't know who this is yet. All they can see is like, her poppin' physique and her knife as she's attacking already. So
Yep.
I guess, Kyra doesn't know who this is, but dude, her eyes are aflame with outrage at the sight of this wanton cruelty. Some of the writing here, some of the words are a little bit on the poetic side, so maybe there is, some writing help, or the Robin artist is doing this all on his own. We don't really know the division of labor there, but let's see here now. The torn leaves drift in the damp air. You don't really see too many leaves though. The
Yeah.
torturers whirling gape at the sudden intrusion. Um, right. So this is good. You have the black and the white, and then the white, and the black. I like that. You talk about the spot black. Kill her.
Yeah.
She's saying in some other language. This is a good device to use if somebody's in another language. You just put it in brackets. And sorry if you can hear Zenny, my Lily's
Yep.
dog, but she's going off. At the tall woman's command,
Yeah.
one hulking lout lurches heavily towards Kyra. Um, Here, what does she do? She slashed him, or she's rearing back. It looks like
I think she's rearing
not
back
quite clear
because
there if
then
she just slashed him or if
yeah.
she's rearing back. But in the next panel, she's punching. So and then I see, she's putting her knife away.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's interesting, a
Yeah.
choice, right? Why would she do
Yeah.
that?
She's gonna go dukes on him. He's coming at her with dukes.
She's
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 gonna
matching
meet him with
she's
whatever he's
matching
bringing
Duke for
instead
Duke
of
here. So she's
there you
gentlemanly
go.
fighter.
There you go. She's showing.
With one
There you
tremendous
go.
blow, he drops like a log. The other Sharak. The other, well, this guy's got a knife right here though. So what the hell?
Then she'll pull her knife out after she clobbers this
This
guy.
guy's got a piece. Matter of fact. Take her and destroy her
Yeah.
completely, right? So this is my OCD, but a lot of space here between the letter and the comma, and I'm just like, to me that makes me go like have ticks because I'm like, I guess I'm just an anal compulsive typographer, but like I said, this lettering is doing the fine job here. Otherwise. The highlight,
Yeah.
the
Very
hirelings
readable.
move to circle. Kyra doesn't wait. She vaults the body as it falls,
Right.
leaping among the torturers like a dust devil. All right, and so here's some interesting body language. What these guys are doing, and she's rearing back on this guy. She slams him. Kyra walks bodies like a paved path. Right, so she's walking over them, whirling in their midst with a
Mhm.
deceptive ease, advancing with cold fury in her heart and with simple finesse. Kyra almost smiles. So she's like our turbo character. She's totally got this. She's the superior, physical, fighter to all these guys. Here you're seeing some rippling muscles a little bit. You do see her like, taking glee, um, and just kind of cutting through these guys. So interesting, interesting first fight. Noting her position, Kyra shifts her grip to the scimitar's hilt and strikes. And so here we're just seeing uh, a decapitated hand. I guess decapitated is a bad word. A disemboweled, no, disengaged, dismembered. That's the word I'm looking for. A
Chopped
chopped off
off.
hand with a gun still in it, and strikes. Get out ahead of me, old one. Move. Late. She sees the red shimmer ripple over the tall woman's hands. So here we're seeing some sorcery in the jungle. Um, and I'm
Yeah.
still liking the panels here, the black and white breakdown of the balance of it,
Yes.
the fluidity of the composition, I should say. Like some of the face and some
Yep.
of the anatomy, not, your most, like crafted, like, second and third go arounds, of but this stuff is just like a very natural ability, I think,
It feels right, even if you get into the little details and you're like, wow, that's
right.
wonky. It just still feels right, and the ease with moving through the comic, the story, it's
Yeah,
smooth. It's smooth. It's only when we get down into this like looking at each panels. But like you just said, I mean, there's a very great sense of movement here and attraction into, each of these little boxes and then fill in the boxes
yeah,
with words. And, here's a classic. This is such a classic over
I'm
here. And
liking
there's a
these.
little two-headed
I'm
battle
liking these.
axe.
I'm
It's
liking these
great.
first couple of pages, right?
Yeah.
What it
Yeah.
lacks in, like, finishing, it definitely makes up for it in other ways. Um, so here,
Heck yeah.
and here you got these panels with these like little diagonals. That's cool. Like the again, this the
Hmm.
symmetry of the overall page means they're thinking about pages, not just panels. Um, right. So let's see
Yeah.
some of this action here. So where does she get the scimitar from? Is she picks it up from someone?
Somebody was coming at somebody. Yeah.
Right.
Somebody was coming at her
Yeah,
with
she
it.
took it away from the guy. So she's swinging this around.
Hmm.
She's bopping this guy with a big zrack, and I love the sound effects when they get like that. We use those all the
Yeah.
time. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
she barely avoids a ball of fire. It looks like it's melting the scimitar's handle. So for a moment, she's just like I guess retreating, right? This is kind of like a standoff or like a standstill, a stalemate.
Yeah, I
The
don't
sorceress
know,
is
don't
there,
know.
and Kyra's walking away. Even though she was so confident about killing the others, she got one scimitar handle melted from a fireball, and she's backing away. She grabs the guy, and she says, "Good goddess, what was that? I knew someone was trying to find the hill, but these natives call it a sacred place, and they won't tell, but they don't understand the mineral wealth it contains." Mom would have been just livid, and of course, mom is Kageena, right? Um, uh,
Yes.
all right, I'm resisting. I'm resisting. Okay, I'm going to. I can't help it. Now I'm going to talk about the line
Okay.
spacing. So that he didn't measure out the line spacing, right? This is such minor business, but yes,
You're
it's
talking about up
closer
here?
together here, and then it's farther apart here. Am I getting like, am I revealing psychosis at this point?
Oh, well, you and I have to start doing some lettering, and we've been talking about who's going to do the lettering for
Right,
Turbo's teaser. And now you're starting to get me a little jumpy because I might be going over my work at least two more times after I submit
right,
it for approval.
right. I mean, that means, I mean, what you. what you could do is, do it on a tracing paper, and this way you could just center it perfectly, and you could make adjustments, at
Yeah. But you're talking about time, you know what I mean? Like this is not a book that feels like somebody had high school time or college time where they were working at the
yeah,
7-Eleven and then every other moment where they're not working
no,
at the
I know. I'm not.
7-Eleven, they're
I'm.
making their
I'm not
comic. I
faulting.
really
I'm
feel
not
like
faulting
this
these
is
guys.
like coming out of
Yeah,
a
no, they.
sketchbook and then it's getting amped up as enough to, like you said, go to the direct market of black and white sales and comics in
Right, right. I'm not.
1985.
I'm not cutting these guys so bad as I'm saying. Like going forward, people should take
I
from this.
know.
This right here is a $5 light table that they sell at Five Below. It comes with a cord. You
Yeah.
plug it in. There's no on-off switch. You could very easily, work out your not just your lettering, but your faces. All your fine things that you want to get right. So just going forward, if you have the time, if you don't have the time, understood. Back into the story. At the thought of a mine, but you saw how I was like, I was almost not about to mention it. I can't help it. I'm bad. At the
You
thought of a
will.
mine under our home. So we're getting into a little story here. The hill is a sacred place. They're talking about why these strangers are in this jungle area. There's a mine underneath, and they're looking for mineral wealth. So you got that right, and I could definitely sympathize, having seen Avatar yesterday. The movie and the Pandora idea, where the sky people are coming after all the natural resources. Um, I've heard the story often how the young, headstrong jungle queen secludes her pregnant self in the Himalayan foothills. So now we know where these jungles are. These are the jungles of Himalayas. We see from these rounded panel borders that is a universal sign for um, flashback, right? Right.
Flashback. Yep.
And
Yep.
here we're seeing
Yep.
Kyra being born, uh, in a cave in a snowy day, and she brings me forth alone. It says how Dad showed up to stay and taught me some classics. So here he's got an open book, and she's doing like some weaving or the
Mm,
God's Eye thing, or what is that? Is that the thing where you do the
mm.
cat's cradle on the string, maybe? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I would go with that. Yeah.
So mom made sure I knew how to fight, shoot, and generally get along. So this is basically Kyra's origin story, her inaugural story, her maiden voyage. Wonder how mom would have handled a
Mm,
witch. Um, so now we're on location here in Bangkok, and we're looking
okay.
at some kind of like military or some kind of like industrial building with a helicopter on the roof. I'm surrounded by misfits, incompetents, and fools. You disgust me. Not only can you not extract information from a toothless old native priest, but you look like children next to a teenage girl. So Kyra's not even 20, it seems. I'm going to have that medal if I have to redefoliate Southeast Asia. The government won't stop me. The people won't stop me. And you won't stop me. Now move. So I guess is the Himalayas? Is that Tibet, if I know my geography right, or southeast? Okay, so they're
Yes.
really
Yes.
filling
Yes.
in a
Yes.
lot of
Yep.
the questions on this story, right?
Oh yeah, they do that as they go along, but it's they're very they're very far apart. So as the issues come along in the story, it starts pulling it all together. Although last night when I was reading, I was in issue 3. Um, my comic book Nerdar came on, and uh, I think when we get to maybe issue 3, I'll make a note to bring it up in discussion with you. But I had this like Jake Jacobs' voice in the back of my head saying something to the extent of, like, hey, this is all really good, but maybe we should rearrange some of these sections because we've done that
Yeah.
with Turbo, where it's like we don't, you got flashbacks, maybe a lot of flashbacks, and here you're going to have this moving around from spot to spot. So getting from Bangkok and then meanwhile north, it's you got the ability to rearrange some of these elements to maybe help get some information to us quicker
Yeah.
than later.
Right. And and it's a constant process. I mean, I was just going over some pages, some turbo pages, and I had left a couple of word balloons undone before, and just looking at it now,
Mm,
you go in and you say, oh well, I know exactly what needs to go there, so
right,
it's an
right.
ongoing process. Definitely. I mean, you do need
Right.
these pages to set up stories, and so I call them standing around pages. But this is good. I mean, this is the witch lady.
She throws the vase. It's got a
You
really
got
good
got
sound effect
a big key
crash.
rash. Um, I want results. Man, old
Hmm.
Jaybird's really on the rag today. Just duck. It's always like this around here. I've had a boss like that, actually. Um, and no little girl with muscle.
We all
Yes, we
have.
all have a thrower. Um, no little girl with
Mm,
muscles is going to slow me down either. My art, my magic may not penetrate to the location of the deposits, but I can make certain that everyone's lives are miserable until I find it. A spell to engineer a meeting. So this is a little weird. This is kind of like a corporate witch.
mm.
This is right, right? She's
Well, well, there's another layer. There, like I said, there is
right.
another layer
We're
coming.
going places.
We will get to it. I think in issue two. I think in issue two you'll get more about
Okay.
this gal. But it's you gotta stay with it. You gotta stay with it. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah. Well,
interesting.
I'm sticking with it. I mean, definitely in on the visual. In the room, rock and twitch, unsettled by the anger of Johanna Starling. Now we're getting her name. The storm clouds are gathering outside. And then meanwhile in the north. Now this is the first we're seeing of Topless. Um, right? And so we did I don't
Hmm.
know if we had an adults only or a mature warning on the
Nope.
cover.
Nope. Nope.
True to the roots of the fetish comics or the fetish art prints, whatever you could call it, that these used to
Yeah.
be based on.
Yeah.
Right.
Pamphlets.
Um, I sometimes wonder why I hang around here in an Asian jungle. I suppose I love the forests and the pretty like me and the people like me pretty well. In fact, there's no real government here. This jungle queen routine suits me just like it did mom. All right, so that's just her like cleaning off after a bath or after bathing. A day later, we see a helicopter blown off course further upland. We'll set down here in this village. Going to look for fuel here. Find out where we are. Bird out. Whoop 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 whoop. I like that.
Hmm.
I believe strongly in these sound effects. Being also part of the graphical design. What do they have against us? Not too kindly towards strangers in these parts. This one's a little tough. You see how I read it out of sequence? When you're bottom
Yeah.
left and upper right, that's usually what they do when they're trying to give equal billing to two stars on the credit screen. Um, you're never sure which one to read first, and so I guess because I'm tilting a certain way. Um, but yeah, we're seeing some villagers that are kind of walking around as these guys land and walk around. Hey, you stupid gooks! All we want is a little information. Yeah, that's probably a difference between the '80s and now.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. That's a big gap.
Vietnam,
Big gap.
gook was an expression
Yes.
for Asian people, the U.S. military, and I think we've got a
Well, also bringing in the B movie market, Rambo, and the that cliche Trumpy tropey thing where it's just on a repeat cycle. So they're just using that same cliche
right. I mean,
language to
I
just
I actually have a song that I wrote for my band. It's called Down in Vietnam, and I use the word gook in it. And society has changed. Things change. even if you're speaking in the voice of a bad guy, it's just
Yeah.
you don't want the next generation to see it in print. It just hurts people. So it took us a couple
Yeah.
of decades to realize that, and so maybe maybe you
Move
won't see this.
beyond.
I mean, they still do it. People still use all kinds of ethnic slurs in movies and film and everything, but it's got to be handled a certain way. For an
Right.
indie comic creator, I don't know. I don't know, how you handle that. It's definitely a decision, but when you're talking about ruffling feathers, this is called a rustle of feathers. So, um,
Ha ha.
he says, "I'll let him be. Let's just grab a beer and fly out of here." Right? I mean, we're gonna have to
So,
grapple with these questions when we do our B movie comic, our B movie B, our
yep.
what is it called? Our B movie scream queens. No, B movie she devils.
No, you mean she devils.
Because if we
Yes.
want to be
Yes.
authentic to 1961, where the story starts, we really have to think about how can we not use those kind of terms. If society was racist back then, and you're dealing with people of different,
Yeah.
colors and ethnicities.
Well, it's more ignorance. I think we can colorize language in our own way to reflect those times and the ignorance that people had towards other cultures and the such. But I just want to jump
Yeah,
in, Jake. We always try to
yeah,
stay around 45 minutes, very digestible content here for the YouTubers. And, obviously that they can also get along on their days and keep enjoying comics and everything. But it looks like, once again, we've gotten ourselves into a deeper dive than we anticipated, though not really, because I think both of us have a lot of commitment and passion to this right here, Kyra. So I'm going to say let's start working our way
yeah.
out. I'm going to leave my camera on this page because I don't want I want to keep it as a
I
page
think I
turner
see.
when you come
Well,
back.
if we just whip through the next couple, I think I see a pretty good stopping point. But you're right. We could be picking up the
Okay.
pace here. Um, Here we see, these guys settle into a bar. Kyra's in the town nearby, and she engineers a shaduf, which we don't know what that is yet. Are you sure it was her?
It's something for
Oh,
wells. This is how they, yeah, this is a big, it's a teetering
oh, okay.
thing to get water out of a
Right.
well.
I found this well sweep in a book. It should save trouble pulling up water. So there's some research put in
Yep,
on that. I liking these. I like this pose, right? Good. This one does show some good body language as she's straining to do some heavy lifting. So
yep,
we're going back and forth between the guys that are kind of like stalking her and then what she's doing in real time. Instructions, plans, thanks, farewells. There's a great duality here to this page. All of a sudden, what's this? An earthquake without any like fanfare. We see an earthquake here in this little panel, right? Or is that just a crack?
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, and so here you see
That's
there's
definitely.
also like a well, one of those well things here. So is this the village where Kyra's in? I know, I saw him too, sweetheart. Be ready. So there's just a big rumble happening. Here, Kyra takes
Right.
off into the jungle with her big tiger. This might be like kind of a Frazetta reference on the fluidity of this drawing. The assassins allow her to move a short way from the village. So here she's under attack immediately? Missed, but not by much. Kyra's jungle-bred senses let her evade the first murderous charge. So sometimes the dialogue is letting us catch up with a little bit of the continuity because it's not that fluid that she's just about to be attacked here, but they describe it. She's here in a clearing. You see, there's these guys all around. If you pick them out here, here, here. I've seen two of them before. She says, "I have the odd feeling I know what this local muscle is here for. The paramilitary type and that round bald guy. Bird to base, we've got the jungle kid. It'll be a minute or two before we take her out. We won't be too tough on her. Out." Here they are swinging a sword. Uh, they're not going to be too tough on her. And look how big these mobile phones are, right? That'll date you.
Those are one of those military.
Yeah, that'll date you. Here's a pretty nice action sequence, an uppercut,
Yeah.
just a little closer, girl, and then whap, he tagged her. This beefy guy. Woof, caught me off bala. Bam. Can I hit her once? These guys want to play for keeps. I can't afford to play nice jungle damsel. I've got to hit them as hard and fast as I can. There's an audible snap as her strike parts bone from bone, as her strike parts bone from bone. Like this. Uh, would shoot her, shoot her. A flicker of motion attracts her eyes. And here, Kyra hears the flat snap, twuck, and reacts. Bird to base, this is bad. We're having some trouble slowing her. We're trashed, Starling. So here I think she sticks the guy in the way to take the arrow. She's that fast. She took us but good. How soon can you send up some kind of reinforcements? They say as she throws this one guy onto the other guy. And so the answer is only in picture. And I think this is where we'll call it quits.
Okay.
Another Badoom or Baroom, as we see the big, tall corporate witch, is got to take matters into her hands herself. And about you, but I'm seeing a little bit of John Romita Jr. in here, or maybe it's too early for that.
Junior comes in 86,
Wait till okay.
87
Well, this
for
that
X-Men, but they're making this back in the early 80s. So they're printing in 85. I would assume they did this in maybe 84 or
right.
80.
Okay, so maybe it's a
Yeah,
little.
whatever.
So maybe
Yeah.
okay. Well, maybe they shared influences.
Yes.
I'm really liking how he's rendering
Yeah.
the big cat. It's really good here,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
really good here. So I
Ooh.
wonder if there's some refs on that. I mean, Frazetta had the real fluidity with these big cats. And maybe this is in a swipe somewhere. But yeah, let's call it there. I think that's about half the book. And it's a slow go because we're painstakingly poring over everything. We don't need to be that fast, but we're bringing you into the story like we did on some of the commandees. And so I guess we can wrap up.
And we're gonna want to hear from you, the viewer, in the comments if you do want to see more of this.
Right.
So there are basically 7 issues, and if you'd like to see us go into a deeper dive, go ahead and leave in the comments because Jake and I are here to figure things out for ourselves, but at the same time we also want to engage our audience. So let us know.
Yeah.
But there's a really good chance we're going to be coming back really soon on this because we're doing a deep dive and getting into what it took to make Kyra.
Yeah, we are really trying to honor all the work that went into this, even if we're critical here and there.
Yes.
This is something that we're
Yeah.
we're checking out, and we're hoping that future generations will check out. Um, yeah, let us know. Sometimes when I'm watching a comic book podcast, I get restless, and when they don't turn the page fast enough, so I know what that feeling's about. But if you're listening, and you're slowing down, that's so that it is, really giving the comic its best presentation by getting into the story instead of just flipping through the art. And so that's what we did.
Right.
I just needed to see, at least for the first issue, how they lay out the story, what the ideas are, the origin and all that. And so we did that. And next time, I think we should be quicker about this, either way, but we'll try and cut through, as many of these other issues as we can, culminating in the trade paperback where they have the later material and they kind of stuck with it through a period of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
3 years it looks like. Yep.
right
So
on.
very
Okay, so
huge amount of respect.
so
So
we
that's what I got.
yeah, so deep inside the world of Kyra, we've been waiting on this because it's something that I came across and then you picked up. By the way, how much did you pay for those Kyras on eBay? I assume you got them on eBay.
I I did, and I think it was somewhere including Shipping, $25.
Okay, yeah. So they're going maybe for $5 a piece. You figure, not including the shipping.
That's traditionally what you're seeing on for comics if you're not getting the opportunity to give a best offer and stuff. So yeah, well, the next thing
Cool.
we go to record is a Turbo episode on Sunday. So I will see you on Sunday, my friend.
That's right. We're getting back to Turbo next week, and we'll be doing some more of these internal pages. I'm going to be laying out page 14. I'm going to be
Nice.
starting to lay out page 14, and I could even show you the roughs here. But tune into our other series slash channel, uh, where they finally get a respite after a like 8-page battle sequence.
Wow. Cool. All right, Jake. I'll
Cool.
see you on Sunday.
All right, Kurt. See you next time. Bye bye.